That infamous moment, etched into the public memory, wasn't just a slip of the tongue or a one-off comment. It was a signal, a glimpse into a deeper, more complex shift happening behind the scenes in U.S. policy circles, while the world's attention was fixed on the spectacle. Few realized that this moment would mark the beginning of a subtle but significant transformation in how the United States approaches its relationships with certain countries. The words spoken that day echoed far beyond the walls of the press room, quietly setting the stage for a new era of policy decisions that would ripple across continents. In the months and years that followed, a series of newly exposed policy memos began to surface, documents that had been quietly circulated among top officials, never intended for public scrutiny. These memos, along with a clear pattern of recent immigration actions, reveal that what was once dismissed as an offhand remark has, in fact, become the backbone of official U.S. policy. The philosophy behind that infamous list, once whispered about in diplomatic circles, has now been codified, shaping the way the United States interacts with nations deemed problematic or strategically inconvenient. The language in these documents is careful, often couched in bureaucratic jargon, but the intent is unmistakable: to formalize a hierarchy of nations, with real consequences for those who find themselves on the wrong side of the line. This shift isn't just theoretical, it's already affecting visa approvals, foreign aid, and even the tone of diplomatic engagement. For many, the realization comes too late, after policies have been enacted and doors quietly closed. And as the evidence continues to mount, it's becoming increasingly clear that Guyana, a country that has recently captured headlines for its sudden oil wealth and economic promise, remains entangled in this hidden policy web. Despite the optimism that oil discoveries have brought to its people, and the hope for a brighter future, Guyana is still quietly treated as an outsider by the very powers it seeks to engage. Behind closed doors, officials debate its status, weighing its newfound resources against old prejudices and strategic calculations. The people of Guyana, meanwhile, are left to wonder why, despite their nation's progress, they still face obstacles and skepticism on the world stage. This chapter will peel back the layers of secrecy, exploring how Guyana's story fits into the broader narrative of shifting U.S. policy, and what it means for countries that find themselves on the wrong side of an invisible line. The proof is in the paperwork. Every page, every stamp, every signature tells a story, one that's often hidden in plain sight. For many, the process of applying for a visa is a routine part of international travel or study, but for Guyanese citizens, and for others from countries deemed undesirable by certain governments, the paperwork becomes a battleground. It's not just about filling out forms or gathering supporting documents, it's about navigating a system that seems designed to keep you out. The questions become more probing, the requirements more stringent, and the scrutiny more intense. Each step in the process is a reminder that, for some, the doors to opportunity are guarded by invisible barriers. These barriers are not always written in law, but they are enforced in practice, through the paperwork, the interviews, and the endless waiting. While no public list exists, the reality is that decisions are being made behind closed doors. The criteria for these decisions are rarely disclosed, and the true extent of the crackdown is hidden from public view. Governments and embassies often cite security concerns or administrative discretion, but the lack of transparency leaves applicants in the dark. Rumors circulate about secret lists and unwritten policies, but official confirmation is almost impossible to obtain. What is clear, however, is that the experience of Guyanese applicants is not unique. Across the world, people from certain countries find themselves facing similar obstacles that are rarely acknowledged, let alone explained. The secrecy surrounding these decisions only adds to the sense of injustice and frustration. The targeted systematic visa crackdowns on Guyanese citizens mirror the treatment of other nations reportedly on that original list. The process is often marked by long lines, repeated interviews, and a sense of uncertainty that never quite goes away. Applicants are left wondering if they will be judged on their individual merits or if their fate has already been decided by the country listed on their passport. For many, the experience is dehumanizing. They are reduced to a set of statistics, their hopes and dreams weighed against a backdrop of suspicion and prejudice. The stories are strikingly similar. Families separated, students forced to abandon their studies, business people unable to attend crucial meetings. the impact is felt not just by individuals, but by entire communities, as opportunities for travel, education, and economic advancement are systematically denied. The approval rates for tourist, student, and business visas have plummeted not based on individual merit, but on nationality, the core of the shithole ideology. This ideology, though rarely spoken aloud, is evident in the numbers. Approval rates that once hovered at reasonable levels have dropped precipitously, leaving applicants with little hope. The message is clear: where you come from matters more than who you are. This approach undermines the very principles of fairness and equality that many countries claim to uphold. It sends a chilling signal to those who dream of a better life, who seek to learn, to work, or simply to visit loved ones abroad. The consequences ripple outward, affecting not just the individuals denied entry, but their families, their communities, and even the countries that impose these restrictions. As the paperwork piles up and the rejections mount, the true cost of these policies becomes impossible to ignore. The proof, as always, is in the paperwork and in the lives forever changed by a single word: denied. The concept of the public charge has long been a part of U.S. immigration law, but in recent years, it has been transformed from a technical guideline into a powerful barrier, one that is now being wielded with particular force against applicants from Guyana. The public charge rule, at its core, is supposed to determine whether an immigrant is likely to become primarily dependent on government assistance. However, the way it is being enforced today goes far beyond its original intent. Instead of serving as a neutral assessment, it has become a weaponized tool, used to exclude and stigmatize entire groups of people based on their nationality and perceived economic status. For Guyanese applicants, the public charge rule now demands an almost impossible standard: the requirement to prove immense personal wealth. This is not just a matter of showing that one can support themselves, it is a demand for evidence of financial resources far beyond what is reasonable for most people in Guyana. The process involves scrutinizing every aspect of an applicant's financial life: bank statements, property ownership, employment history, and even the financial status of family members. The message is clear: unless you can demonstrate a level of wealth that is unattainable for the vast majority of Guyanese citizens, your application will be viewed with suspicion, if not outright rejection. This approach effectively labels the entire nation of Guyana as a nation of potential paupers, regardless of the individual circumstances of each applicant. It is a sweeping generalization that ignores the diversity, resilience, and aspirations of the Guyanese people. The policy does not take into account the economic realities of a developing country, nor does it recognize the contributions that immigrants from Guyana have made, and continue to make, to communities across the United States. Instead, it paints every applicant with the same broad brush, reducing them to a stereotype rooted in economic prejudice. The impact of this policy is deeply personal and profoundly damaging. Families are separated, dreams are deferred, and hope is replaced by anxiety and fear. The requirement to prove wealth is not just a bureaucratic hurdle, it is a statement of contempt, echoing the infamous slurs and discriminatory attitudes that have long plagued immigration policy. It tells every Guyanese applicant that they are not seen as individuals with unique stories and potential, but as a collective burden, an economic liability to be kept at arm's length. This is not just a technical rule, it is a reflection of a deeper, more troubling mindset, one that values wealth over humanity and exclusion over opportunity. The weaponization of the public charge rule against Guyanese applicants is a stark reminder of how policy can be used to reinforce prejudice and how the promise of America can be denied to those who need it most. This isn't just about immigration, it's about a worldview that categorizes entire nations and their people as undesirable, regardless of their potential or achievements. The shadow of that list is dictating the futures of millions. To navigate this complex and ever-changing landscape, you need the most current information. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our essential guides and updates.